Tuesday, September 10th, 2024, and we are 55 days away from the election. Welcome to today's Make It Make Sense mini episode. I'm Grant Herms. I hope you enjoyed the extended interviews over the last couple of days, and thank you again to those guests. I also hope you got a chance to check out the Make It Make Sense Substack that is now back behind the paywall, but don't worry, it's just $5 a month, so if you didn't check it out, you can still do that. You just got to subscribe this time. I'm sorry I wasn't in your feeds yesterday. I decided to take a full rest day and soak up a little extra time with my family before diving back into the election head first. But I am back today, and we have a lot to talk about because tonight is the very first debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. In fact, it's the first time this pair will be in the same room together. So let's talk a little context here. This debate has the long shadow of the last one that forced Joe Biden to drop out. That June debate will almost certainly be on Trump's mind because he's been unable to stop talking about it since it happened. He's been able to stop talking about how he shouldn't have agreed to debate Biden so early and how unfair he's considered the race to be so far now that Harris has joined. He's also chosen to attack ABC, which is hosting the event tonight at 9 o'clock, along with David Muir and Lindsey Davis, who are moderating this debate. Now, listen to him in a recent town hall on Fox News.
I have
ABC
to say,
is not ABC.
John, ABC is the worst network in terms of fairness. They had a poll where I was 17 points down a couple of days prior to the election. I was 17 points down in Wisconsin. And they do that so people don't vote because, hey, I love Trump, but he's 17 points down. I'm not going to go out and vote. I was 17 points down and I won. And I called the best pollster. I said, why wouldn't they say 5 or 4 or 3? Because at 3, you go and vote. At 17, your people say, I want to vote, but, I'm busy. I have other things to do. Let's go see a movie and we'll watch the results later. They are the most dishonest network, the meanest, the nastiest, but that was what I was presented with. I was presented with ABC, George Slopadopoulos.
That's been Trump's MO for a while, but he's really been leaning into it before the debate here and really puffing himself up on social media too, including a post on Truth Social where he promised to prosecute alleged cheaters and political enemies in this election should he win. Now, that's not unusual for him, but I want to say really clearly, one, it is not normal for a candidate to promise something like that, and we should not consider it normal. Two, it's a ploy to go in as the strongman to this debate, but if it somehow goes wrong, he can blame the media and call for retribution. We'll get into how each candidate is prepping here in just a minute because that June debate is also something that's on Harris's radar too. Not that Harris is at risk of having the kind of night that Biden had, but it's going to be on her mind because the bar is going to be set not for just an okay debate for her, but an exceptional one from her to drown out Democratic flashbacks, the last debate, and that's a lot of pressure. No matter how much momentum she has with the Democrats right now, although that has started to stall just a little bit, she did miss out on a post-convention bump as well. Then there's some new polling out from the New York Times Siena poll. That has Trump 1 point ahead of Harris at 48 to 47, but it's a statistical tie right now. That's just the popular vote. When you look at the swing states, Harris is winning Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, and the all-important state of Pennsylvania and its 19 electoral votes. The two are tied in Arizona and Georgia, and we are talking margins here of just a few points in those swing states, but that's enough in those major states. Another poll from the Washington Post just a day later had Harris losing Arizona and Georgia and tied in Nevada, with the other states staying the same. But in every state, Harris had a 4-point-plus swing in those states after Biden dropped out, which was borne out in that new New York Times poll as well that found 91% of Democrats are excited about voting for Harris, compared to 85% of Republicans who said they were excited about voting for Trump. I've talked about the enthusiasm gap before, which usually favors Republicans and drives voters to the polls, meaning that gap will also be something that both campaigns will have to navigate no matter how this debate plays out. One last thing here, the rules have been set. If you don't remember, the campaigns were fighting over a bunch of things in the debate, and Trump even suggested he might back out at one point. But the main sticking point here was the microphones. Will they be left on the whole time, or will they be turned off while each candidate is speaking? The Trump campaign wanted them turned off because Trump's worst debate performances were when he could be heard the whole time. The first 2020 debate was roundly considered the worst presidential debate before Biden's this year. The Harris campaign wanted to keep the mics open the whole time, hoping that she could get under Trump's skin and set him off. Well, the Trump campaign got their wish. ABC News says the microphones will be off when it is not a candidate's turn to speak. Now, there are two lines of thinking about this too. One is the ABC line of thinking. The network says it wants to ensure a more informative debate for viewers and are hoping that turning off the microphones will make sure that each candidate does get their chance to speak uninterrupted, in theory. The other line of thinking is that turning off the mics actually does voters a disservice because they won't be able to fully assess each candidate on their character and on the way they respond to things said about them off the cuff. Though I'm more of a mind to say that people already have their expectations of how each candidate reacts to those things in the moment, that a debate just isn't likely going to change those ideas if the microphones are open. And if anything, the microphones might end up actually helping the Harris campaign, even though they didn't say they thought that right away, because nearly 30% of voters in that New York Times poll said they needed to know more about Harris compared to just 9% of people who said that about Trump. That means there were more gettable voters for Harris than Trump, and we know from past polling in this race that the more people see of Harris, the more they tend to like her, and when the opposite thing has been true for Trump in the past, which is kind of what her campaign has been prepping her for tonight. Harris has been holed up in a Pittsburgh hotel for 5 days, according to a lot of insider reporting from the New York Times and CNN. Now, she had an advisor going full Daniel Day-Lewis method acting mode, playing Trump in this situation, including the oversized suits and the long red tie. She's also got a full room full of actual debate lights and stages and a podium up there for her. In it, Harris has been prepping for the personal attacks and the racist attacks and aiming to sort of let Trump be Trump all on his own, which is a big departure from the Hillary Clinton approach, even though several close Clinton advisors are helping prep Harris right now. And according to those inside reports, Harris is focusing on reaching that slim margin of undecided voters, especially in swing states, by using a much more policy-driven and populist language approach to paint Trump as the rich guy who doesn't care about the average American, just his rich friends, and keeping himself out of prison. And like I said, she's also being prepped on really introducing her policies to a much wider audience than just rallies of Democrats. A lot like the DNC acceptance speech, they know that this is likely one of the largest national audiences that they're going to get, and to be able to have a combination of her defenses for her policy positions now, the policies of the Biden administration, and her policies and the way that they've shifted in the past, all without making those answers too dense. Like I said, it's a tall order for her in this debate. Trump, on the other hand, has been prepping semi-sporadically in both Bedminster and Mar-a-Lago, but only for several hours at a time, as opposed to Harris's 5-day intensive debate boot camp. And his team has been calling those sessions policy time as opposed to debate prep. The idea that he would need to prep for a debate is something that Trump bristles at. He's also foregone using podiums and a mock debate stage. Instead, staffers are in conference rooms, batting around questions and answers, and Trump is sort of picking and choosing the ones that he likes. They've also really worked on having him be what they call happy Trump instead of what they call mean bully Trump, because that second guy there tends to turn off voters, but he's reportedly been having a hard time with that because he's told aides that he thinks Harris is genuinely stupid. He's angry that she's even in the race in the first place, but he's also said, quote, "I'm not going to let her do to me what she did to Mike," referring to Mike Pence, who she way outperformed in the 2020 vice presidential debate. The bottom line here is this also might be the only debate that we get between these two presidential candidates. Other dates have been floated around, but nothing has been set. So in other years, when debates have mattered a lot less, this debate will likely matter the most and could have a real potential to shift this race towards one candidate or another, when essentially right now it's a coin flip. Okay, that is it for today's MIMS Mini. Please rate and review the show if you liked it and you haven't yet. Give it a follow. It helps more people see it on Apple and Spotify. And go ahead and like and subscribe on YouTube as well. It'll help people follow the show. You can also still subscribe to the Make It Make Sense Substack, which I did leave open for an extra day and like a half because I kind of forgot that it was up for free. So you're welcome, I hope. Anyway, please share the show on social media at MIMS News Pod. That's MIMS News Pod. It's all one word. And over on TikTok tonight, I'll be doing a live fact check of the debate on my page. That's at Grant Herms TV. If you just want to watch the debate in peace, however, and just get the recap here tomorrow, thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.